It's the accountability and the community that really helps you solidify your views and really help you work out what's the best next thing for you to do, talking to guys like yourselves and just working it all out. So it's a never-ending journey, and I really love this space of just continuous improvement.
It is something as well, isn't it, that certain people might not connect with that specific coaching group. So it's a matter of don't be afraid to get locked into one, explore other options, because there's always something that you may interpret it in a different way coming from someone else.
100%. There's a book I'm just finished reading. It's like, what got you here won't get you there, right? You pick up what you need to pick up and it will get you so far. And I suppose this is where the right mindset helps you with that transition to the next step, because if you're too blind to think, I need to keep doing this, keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. Sometimes it just means you might have to stop, take a pause, which is what I'm doing at the moment.
G'day everyone and welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to the Build Insite podcast. We're joined in the studio live today. I've got my co-host Dean with me. My name is Luke. We're joined by a few front runners in the South Australian building market. We've got a special builders panel today. Starting from left to right, I'll introduce, sitting alongside of me, I've got James from J Turner Constructions, Zach from ZJ Building, and Luke from Saxony Building. Guys, I think I might just pass, just starting again left to right. Just give us a quick intro on who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
I'm James, J Turner Constructions. We are a residential builder based down in Wollonga. We specialise in like high-end or mid to high-end architectural new homes and renovations. I'm a chippy by trade, but off the tools now, office-based.
Yeah, so my name's Zach Johnson. I run ZJ Building. I'm actually only around the corner from Luke at Callery here. We're in the same neck of the woods. But we specialise in extensions and renos, so that mid to high-end mark. We're a design and construct company. A little bit different to James there, but I'm also a chippy by trade. So yeah, work my way through the ranks. I've got a decent team now and yeah, not on the tools, but that's me.
Yeah, and I'm Luke Doecke from Saxony Building, based up in a bit further north of Adelaide in the Barossa Valley. We specialise in custom new builds, architectural homes, and collaborate a lot with architects and designers in all the pre-construction phase. But yeah, so we've been based up there for probably a good 10 years now. Probably a little bit different sort of a start rather than being a chippy. I was a boilermaker at the start of my after school, but definitely got the building bug probably a few years later. Yeah.
Well, good to know you guys. While we're going, might actually, just to tie it all in there, seeing it is a builders panel, Dino, give us an intro on you as well, mate. Obviously, my other half of Build Insight, but tell us about your building company too.
It's good to have you guys in here. We've got 4 SA boys to 1 Victorian here. I'm not going to ask you guys if it's Palmy or Palmer, because I know I'm going to get outvoted. But no, guys, obviously I'm in Victoria and the Macedon Ranges, particularly with Backman Builders. Yeah, we've been building, I think I've been in the industry for 20 years this year, so 2 decades up. And yeah, a bit like Zachy, I'm not on the tools too much these days. We're doing high-end jobs in Melbourne and out in rural. So yeah, cut our teeth in carpentry, going back with my brother Daz and business partner, and yeah, really loving what we're doing and the space we're in. It's good fun.
Awesome, mate.
What about you, Lukey?
Awesome. Yeah, Luke, Callery Building, other half of Build Inside as well. So yeah, like Zach mentioned, we're just around the corner from each other, eastern suburbs of Adelaide. I think everyone's got a pretty similar story besides Lukey over there, unfortunately. Yeah, carpenter by trade.
Right, maybe he's smarter than us and stayed out of carpentry.
He maybe avoided that for a little bit longer. But yeah, carpenter by trade, slowly progressed after contract carpentry for a while, progressed into, custom renovation builder in Adelaide here, and that's it.
Loving it. So guys, we've so many topics with 5 builders sitting here that we can go through, but let's kick it off by how we're staying ahead of the game and what we're doing with our businesses. We've had chats off air and different catch-ups with different business coaching, building coaching that we're doing. So James, you want to kick off, mate, yourself?
Yeah, so probably the turning point for me was last year I did a course with Zara Cotter, the Healthy Home, and that was a bit of the turning point for me in my business and the direction I wanted to go. I sort of learned and understood a few different things that I probably wasn't aware of with how we build. So that sort of led me down a bit of a path to the high performance type building and really diving into that, and then moving into wanting to do our passive house certification. I think, Luke, you might be doing your passive house certification. So yeah, really diving into that sort of area. And then with the futures, with the group called Future Builders, so working with those guys and just looking to improve our business, improve the way that we do things. That's both on site and then also with our clients as well. So trying to just improve like everyone, improve all the time, get better and improve the quality that we build, and then also the experience that the clients have as well.
Cool. I've got a pretty interesting story actually about like business and trying to stay ahead of the game. When I was on the tools, obviously just doing all the things and just trying to get it done, and then I'd had this, like a coaching company came into town and I heard a bit about them and went to their sort of seminar where they try to pitch on everything, and I joined up with them. They were just like a general trade coaching company, and I remember this pretty vividly. It was like a mindset shift around the difference between the technician on the tools and actually running a business. They're completely different disciplines. I learned a lot from them. I implemented a lot of stuff straight away, and then I worked out, okay, this is a generalist trade-based coaching business, and I took what they opened my mind up to what's possible. So then I went along went down the rabbit hole when I found the Association of Professional Builders, and that was, I don't know, 4.5 years ago. So I did some pretty intensive coaching with them for 4 years, and a lot of what I know I can accredit to all the training that I've done with them, but also the community. I think this personal development, professional development space, like there's obviously a lot of content out there on the net and everything. You can pretty much go and find it all for free, but it's the accountability and the community that really helps you solidify your views and really help you work out what's the best next thing for you to do, talking to guys like yourselves and just working it all out. So it's a never-ending journey, and I really love this space of just continuous improvement.
It is something as well, isn't it, that certain people might not connect with that specific coaching group. So it's a matter of don't be afraid to get locked into one, explore other options, because there's always something that you may interpret it in a different way coming from someone else.
100%. There's a book I'm just finished reading. It's like, what got you here won't get you there, right? You pick up what you need to pick up and it will get you so far. And I suppose this is where the right mindset helps you with that transition to the next step, because if you're too blind to think, I need to keep doing this, keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. Sometimes it just means you might have to stop, take a pause, which is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm a bit of a free agent. I'm not doing any business coaching at the moment, but just being open-minded to new things and progressing. Sometimes that can hold you back if you're not looking for it.
So we better keep your email off the podcast links, just because you might get flooded by coaching programs.
Property over here.
Oh, yeah.
No, awesome. Thanks, Zach. Lukey, what about yourself?
Yeah, so very similar in the coaching sort of space. Probably I would go back to 2015-16 is when I got the full licence to build, coming out of a subby sort of contractor's licence, but it was around 17. Got to the point, I do remember waking up sort of 3 o'clock in the morning one day, and I'm just like, shit, we're just not making any money. We've got no idea what margins we're putting on work and all that sort of stuff, and rang my wife and said, like, we need to get some help here with some sort of coaching platform. And we're all on social media, so you start seeing all this stuff pop up, and we engaged a coaching business back then, which definitely helped us in some of the sales marketing type of stuff, and also just very, without any real detail, helped us with some margins and what markups to put on sort of your custom work. But really from, I don't know, it would have been 2020, 21, being involved with Live Life Build, our coaching group. It's probably where I've met most of you lads. But it's really been through that how it's really been, for me, the community of like-minded builders who have all got that same drive to improve the industry. And I think same thing, like probably about to lock in to do the Passive House course as well. But I go back 3 years ago, probably Dino being over in Victoria and some other Victorian builders, I was oblivious to what Passive House or pro-climate wraps or ventilated cavities and all this sort of stuff. So
anything out of the box, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, it's actually challenged a lot of probably my thinking. Like I said, I was a boilermaker, so how I got into the building game was building steel framed houses. But out of that, and now what I'm learning.
And then you learnt the real way.
Put them up, but we'll transition to timber because of now what you know. And so I've never been one to shy away from not being stuck in your ways and actually learning a new way of doing things. And to me, that's staying ahead of the game. And I think probably up locally where we are, we're doing things which you don't see too much else happening in that sort of area. But I think, it's bouncing off and having the community of builders and probably professionals who in that building sort of space as well that can definitely move you ahead and start to build better homes for clients.
It's the power of networking that comes along with it as well, isn't there? Like in those sorts of groups, the people you connect with and just hearing their stories and sharing bits of information, that's where it goes. Anything outside of builders coaching, you guys do anything like any networking, catch up with small groups or?
Well, no, we have like a little chat group that we have, just a Facebook Messenger group that we'll Yeah, it's just to have that to ask a question or ask, hey, do you guys have a contractor in this particular area or something like that? It's just, if I look back 3 or 4 years, that just never would have even been a thought of mine. But it's now you've got so many different areas to be able to reach out to other guys that have either been through a situation that you've been through or might have that little piece of information, and you can quite easily access that, which I think that's been a game changer for us.
Yeah, 100%. There's actually a group I'm a part of. It's pretty informal. We call ourselves the Young Leaders Collective. We catch up once a month. Electrician, accountant, and a landscaper. And so, the criteria is that you got to be young and driven and have a decent business where you're not in there every day. But it's heaps good to just catch up with them and just talk general business like problems, big ticket problems. Sometimes you lost a heap of money or something's going really wrong, and you just get it off your chest, and you can relate to those sort of guys. So that's another group I'm part of. But I was going to say as well, what you said, Luke, I think this is a big thing for me, like 2 things you said: professionalism, which is something that's really lacking in the industry. Like there's a lot of cowboys still, but also, and this is why we're all here probably, we all just want a better industry, right? That's really why I was with the APB for so long. That's literally their slogan, right? So it resonates a lot with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, probably outside of the Live Life Build group, probably personally we don't have any sort of outside group essentially, but it's really funny when you start to talk about people. And for me now, people might look at you as a builder, but I see myself as a director running a building company now.
Yep.
And it's not just the nuts and bolts of putting the frame together or how to actually put the house together. It's actually more than that, of actually running the business side of things. And I think then you start to connect with other like-minded business people, and it can be a mate who's in an insurance company or someone else who's just had a start-up in their own business or looking at a new sort of way of doing things. And when you start to have that growth mindset, you start to talk about things, how to increase your team, look at roles and responsibilities of your team, who's going to be doing what tasks, all those sorts of stuff to help you keep moving forward, culture and all that sort of stuff as well. So you start to attract the same sort of people, I think, as well.
You can't restrict yourself just being labelled as a builder. You're an entrepreneur. You're a business professional.
Yep.
The one thing too, guys, is that I think Zach, you mentioned it a few minutes ago. There's elements of what we do. Obviously, we're running construction companies, but as Luke's just touched on, we are businessmen, and you've got to see yourself as that. I think that's a big failure to what we're seeing in the industry with professionalism. But you've also, within our own business, you're leading the example to a lot of other businesses and contracting companies that they're seeing how you're operating. And I know with us, with Backman Builders, we get chats with certain, could be plumbers or sparkies, and they see how you're setting up and even just how you're presenting your... showed it on the platform with the QR system so everyone can access and see things. And come on site, if someone's not as prepared, they can be like, oh shit, you can see you guys leveling up to what you're doing. So I think with what you're doing with the coaching and business platforms, you're leading that example to many other businesses that we engage with every single day.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a shift with people reaching out just for advice. And I'm not saying that I know everything, but just by wanting to better myself and improve things, you just have people that naturally see your content or see what you're doing. It's the same when I watch everyone here, watch their stuff. It's, what are you doing there? How does that work? It's if we're naturally improving ourselves, then people are going to be naturally attracted and want to ask you more, and it's just going to flow on and flow on.
Then there's the typical mindset though, and I'll just throw it out there as a question. We're in Adelaide. It's a big country town, really. Is there enough work to go around? I've got my answer to that, but what do you reckon?
Well, I think there is. Absolutely, I think there is. I've got 2 other guys that are based down in my area that are probably, when I look at it, probably my direct competition, but I'll have phone calls with them quite regularly, and we're trading information, helping each other out. If a lead doesn't work for me, pass it on. Obviously referred one to you that's a project you've recently started, and you've also done the same for me. It just works.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. It's the scarcity mindset if you're thinking that way. There's 1 million people in Adelaide. I don't know how many homes there are. I only need 10 to 15 a year. There's more than enough to go around, right? Yeah. I just want to share a quick little story as well, because JT actually late last year, probably mid last year, we were struggling, couldn't find carpenters as well. And having that little group, we can message each other,
understanding everyone was in the same boat, just put a message out. Not everyone's looking for a carpenter, but if anyone's got any excess job leads, if you don't need them, do you mind sending them through? And we actually ended up employing someone that James, you had the capacity, you didn't need anyone extra on board, so passed the referral on, still works for us to date, so thank you.
That's because Zach's guy that you had didn't work out.
Oh, we won't go there.
That's a story for another day. Anyway.
I was actually just going to touch on that thing of how you can level up the industry, though, and looking at us all more professionally. I've just been listening to an Audible book, and it's by Mel Robbins talking about the let them theory, right? You can, in your personal life, you might look at people personally and you think, I wish they'd just change or get better at what they're doing or whatever. Why don't they look after themselves more? That type of thing. But if you actually, instead of just saying, let them do what they're doing, there's the other side of it, let me control what I can control. And so I think as an industry, we can actually think, okay, let the cowboys be cowboys, but if we actually use what we can do ourselves and influence just by doing what we're doing, best practice, being more professional in that sort of space, what that'll do is start to drag the rest of the industry with you.
100%.
And I think groups that we've been involved in over the time, we've always relied on our industry bodies to do that. But what we're seeing is a real shift in Build Insight. There's a number of other podcasts out there now as well that we're all sharing similar sorts of information to all get the industry to a high level. And what that's doing is starting to drag everyone else with you. So you've got to control what you can control as well.
I need to jump in here for a minute, guys, to thank our sponsors, Backman Builders and Calorie Building. Without the support of these businesses, the Build Insight podcast wouldn't be possible. Take a moment to go and show some support for them so they can continue to support us, bringing you the Build Insight podcast.
That's one of the things I really like Dwayne Pearce says, is he talks about the balance of the industry in terms of the amount of builders there are. And obviously there's custom home builders who build a lot of homes, put them in one group. Look at the custom builders, they're actually weighted probably heavier, just in terms of, as a collective, right? Yeah. So you think about the damage we could do, or not the damage, the improvements we could make, I suppose, if we did band together, start to form a voice. Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Rising tide floats all boats.
Hey.
Yeah.
I like what you say there, Luke. Like, you can't think of it as that you individually are out to change the world.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot save people's lives. You just have to do what you do, and hopefully people follow. They see you leading by example. They see you looking at whether or not it's your kids or it's family. They're seeing you exercise. They're seeing you meditate, whatever it might be. They just naturally drawn to it. And, oh, what are you doing that? How come you're like, why do you meditate? Why do you exercise every day? And then they just naturally are drawn to that.
Yeah, that's a good leadway there, James, into a point we're talking briefly about collaboration, but it's such a massive part of our industry. And I'll put my hand up, in the younger days, being 20 years in the industry, I probably thought we can do it all. I don't need, that's overkill. I know how to build this and whatever, but you learn, you become a bit older and go through experiences. So what individually are you guys doing with your businesses per se to collaborate with other designers, clients, our contractors as well?
I suppose I can kick it off, because we're a design and construct business, and it's literally built off the back of the principle of collaboration, right? It's not the client goes off, gets their plans, and then does that bit there, and then comes to us with their plans, and then we do our bit. Let's all get in a room, get around the table. Let's hear what the client has to say. Let's hear what's possible from a council approval point of view. Let's hear what the builder has to say from a buildability and an affordability point of view, because we all have things we bring to the table, right? This is what we talk about a lot in our marketing. Is it just doesn't make any sense for a consumer to walk these paths alone with different consultants when really we're all aiming for the same thing. Architects and designers, they don't want to draw something that doesn't get built. Everyone wants the homeowner to get what they want, which is the home, right? And obviously there's steps along the way that we have to take. We need the plans, we need the engineering, we need the council approval. How do we make it as easy as possible and as enjoyable as possible, really, for the client to get what they want for the price they can afford, or somewhere in that realm? We all know the story about budgets, but yeah, so that's my take on collaboration. But
Yeah, I think the key to collaboration is that everyone is got a mindset that we're all working to the same goal.
Yeah.
If there's just one thing off, it's not going to work. And I think that's important. Obviously, we use a pre-construction process where we get paid for in that phase, and it's a process which can be really enjoyable for the client to get what they want as their house for their project spend. But if one side of the party, whether it's the designer or architect or the client or the builder, doesn't align with those three, it can be a nightmare. And it's something which I'm pretty passionate about, because we just want to do the absolute best for the client, and when it doesn't work, it's not great. So that's the key, I think, to collaboration. And we're just really trying to find like-minded architects and designers, and then also clients as well. We're not going to say yes to every client or inquiry that we get that come our way. So just want to make sure that aligns with our own business values and purpose as well. Yeah.
And it's clear, open communication that goes hand in hand with that, isn't it, Luke? Because I know we spoke recently about this, was one you were going through. There was an issue arise where the designer hadn't quite communicated with you, and then they almost went to the homeowner direct without, like, you all need to be on that same page. And as soon as an issue arises, nip it in the butt straight away, because otherwise that will just snowball and just really spiral out of control before you know it.
Yeah, and I think it's just having clear expectations of how it looks. And I think with what happened with that one, it was probably a little bit grey at the start. And so I suppose from that, it just didn't quite go the way it normally would. And so from that, we just walked away from the project, but because we didn't feel there was an alignment there. But that happens.
I commend you on actually being able to walk away from that. Whereas probably, 3-4 years ago, you would have just probably pushed through, and then by the time you started the project, I guess the relationship with the client might not have been as good as it could have been. Like, I'm sure everyone probably here is the amount of times that a client, you might get a lead come in, and these people have got they're all starry-eyed, they've got their beautiful plans, they're stamped for approval, ready to go, and they're like, price this job for me, and you price it, and it's $500,000 over budget, and you're the one that has to almost break their heart. Oh. And that's what I try and explain to people if they ring me day dot, is this is what can happen. These are the benefits of doing ABC, everyone working together and working through that process. It's just such a smoother transition from design into construction. And like, you're dealing with these people, like as builders, we're dealing with these clients for 10 years at minimum, probably design and construction, and then warranty. It's over 10 years. So you have to get along with the people. Both parties have to get along.
It really is a marriage. I say that openly to people at the start early on, that you're about to engage in a marriage with us. We're going to talk finances. We're going to talk everything from where you're putting your bed and how you're going to live in the house. So you need to have that communication. But I think probably Zach's probably a little bit excluded from this little topic because you're doing design build. But boys, like, with your businesses and your pre-construction processes, are you largely looking for clients that are at day dot, haven't got any designs in? Are you customizing your service? I know with us, where you might get some plans come to you that are already pre-commenced, and you might be able to see the writing on the wall that they're about to go over budget straight away. Mm-hmm. Where, James, what are you doing with your business with that regard?
I would say best case scenario is people are day dot. Hopefully they've been following along with our content and have a bit of an understanding of how we do operate, but it's still just in that early stages, building that trust, educating them as much as possible.
Sorry, so day dot being they haven't got any plans yet.
Yeah.
No, so that means you are design and construct, although you are using external consultants, but you are involved in the design process.
Yes, right? It is essentially design and construct, but we're not the design part of it doesn't fall under our banner. We're getting a feel for them and putting them in contact with a designer and architect that we feel will be a good fit for them. We still get them to make the decision and meet with them and make sure that it's a good fit, but we'll only recommend people who we think will be suitable to work with. And that designer also, or architect, understand how we operate. So we're not just throwing them out to a random designer to work with. The architect or the designer knows how we operate. And so they're educating them on the benefits of that process as well. So the client's getting the feedback from both parties, and they're like, yep, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, we're very much the same. If people haven't got plans, that's a perfect scenario. We can meet the client, and generally I reckon a lot of our inquiries are driven by the lead that comes to us. Like, very rarely that we'll get that lead from an architect or a designer to say they want us to be involved, I think. And then, because if they're coming to us, they primarily want us to be be the builder. And then it's from there we lay out, this is how the process looks. these are some designers we work for, and also allow the client to make that choice on which designer they want to work with. Yeah, very much the same.
It's very much I'll take the marriage analogy a little bit as well. Like I just say, it's a try before you buy, right? I get to see how you are, you get to see how I operate through a design agreement process. And really, one of the things I say is if we get to the end of that and it's clear that we don't get along, we don't like each other, then we should not proceed to contract, because once we're in contract, it's essentially really hard to get divorced from that. Expensive, and lawyers and all that sort of stuff. So let's avoid that. If we can both agree that it's not a good fit to continue, we've helped you with your plans. It'll be around your budget. It'll work for you, and I'd happily recommend another builder to work with them. And I've actually done that before.
I think that's very important. It's people to understand it's okay to walk away. You get so invested in that. We actually had a scenario of that probably about 12 months ago, that I got so invested in the pre-construction side of it. I was like, I need this job. We've worked on it for so long. We've been paid for our time for it, but there was the expectation of the budget they just wouldn't listen. No matter how many times you tell them that you're hundreds of thousands of dollars over, we still want the big plan. We still want all of this stuff fitted in there. I think it's okay that even though you've invested all that time in it, it's going to become a nightmare. If for some reason that does proceed to construction, it's okay to say, sorry, if you're not going to listen to me, I need to be the professional here, and I need to walk away from the project. I can't help you anymore.
And it's so hard to make that choice, because it's hard to make that choice if you've got no other options, which really brings you back to the whole marketing side of the business, making sure you got something there that's actually bringing in fresh opportunities, so you have the confidence to be able to say no to something, because it's not, if you don't get that job, you're going bankrupt. Like, you've got other things in the pipeline to be able to not make that desperate decision.
Yeah, I think if you're putting the right energy out there as well and you make that decision, I think naturally something else will just pop up anyway.
Yep.
If you are doing things the right way. It is a hard decision to make. Absolutely it is. But you just have to believe that you're doing the right thing by the client and yourself, and something else will pop up. The right person will come along.
Yep.
Yeah, Zach, you had a really good point right there as well with the word pipeline. I know we've probably all been in the position of where you've had jobs fall off or a delay of some sort. I don't know, SA and Vic and other states do things differently, but in Victoria, our councils are becoming slower and slower to get through our planning stages. And we've had projects where have fallen over from different issues. Builders have clients not get financing in time, and you can have holes appear in your workload coming up. With having a pre-construction process in place, you're working with those clients, you're doing design build, so you're there, and if you're engaging with the design process as well from pre-construction, you've got that pipeline of work that you can then maybe pull things forward or have discussions with other clients that you might have said, we'll be ready in 6 months. You might have a hole open up, but it's there. And a big part of that we just touched on, maybe for listeners who don't know or how to go about a pre-construction process, but for a lot of us, we do charge that fee for it. So you are paid as a consultant to carry that work out. And I recently, just on this topic, saw I think it was a Carpentry Australia post asking a question about it, and I can't remember, I won't name who the architect was, but just saw a comment there about maybe builders need to learn to listen to architects better. And it made me chuckle, because there are builders out there and there's collectives all over the country working in a way like this where we want that collaboration. We want to know what's going on. We've probably all been in this situation over the years where you don't know if you've won a job with a tender and then 4 weeks later your boot's on the ground starting it. It could have gone the other way with that tender process. So fees wise and so forth, we don't have to talk dollar figures, but you're charging for your time, and then that takes you through a preliminary agreement, and then from there you're into a building contract. You guys setting up something pretty similar?
Yeah, we have a pretty set process around how we go ahead with the jobs that we find that are your standards. Take the back off, 70 to 100 square metre addition and a bit of a reno. Like, we do those quite a bit. So we've packaged up we've met with our preferred building designer, sorted out what his fees are going to be, and got that really clear. So when we go to site, we obviously can hear through what the client wants to do, and we can say, yep, we've got the solution. This is what it is. These are all the inclusions. This is what it's going to cost, and we can proceed from there. Obviously, there's a fee involved with that. And I was just going to say as well, I think as builders, we struggle to sometimes value the value that we bring to these pre-construction meetings and things like that, and how our eyes looking at a set of plans while they're trying to make a decision about the size of the back doors or the skylight or all these things, that'd be like, if you do that, you add there's 10 grand of steel. You do that, that's a heap more carpentry for that, and there's all this sort of stuff. So you might charge 4 or 5 grand or maybe 10 grand for your prelim fees, but through the process, having your input while the architect's there with his pen ready to start drawing stuff, you can actually say, Mr. Client, if you do, that's probably going to add 20 grand or 30 grand or 50 grand. And in the moment they go, oh, you know what? That's actually not that. That's not a 50 grand spend that I want to make. And you save them like triple, 5 times, 10 times what you've charged them. Just get to the end so you actually rein it in on budget. I think that's something that
You're not doing this process and just doing a quote.
Correct.
You got to add value to that pre-construction process because you're the professional. I think that's where we've had people say before we've already paid someone to do, like, we're not doing a quote. It's not an actual. You'll get a proposal, but you're not just getting us to put numbers on a page. You've got to provide that value if you're going down that road.
Yeah, well, we, like say, do a preliminary service agreement for us to be engaged in that phase. But what that means is we'll go to all the design meetings. Things in that agreement will be going to site, doing site investigations. If you're ripping off the back of a house, going inside the existing roof space to see what potential loads to, before engineering is completed, we can start throwing some allowances at if there possibly is needed some structural steel, or even then to types of finishes externally. When we get the design and we go through that concept stage, I always say to the architects and designers, I said, give me a blank wall as a concept, and then I can cost out different options, and we can talk with the client. Are you looking at face brickwork, or is it a rendered type of finished wall, or is there some standing seam cladding on it? Once we get a feel for what the client is wanting, so just for a rendered wall, for an example, there's a number of different ways you can create that look. You can go James Hardy fine texture cladding, just nailed on and painted with a texture roller, or you can lay your rendered bricks and then render it that way, or you go put Hebel on it, or there's so many different price points. And so once I've got that blank wall from a design, then we can talk with the client and cost out options. So our first proposal will be a lot of these options. Sometimes I might go to the trade or the supplier and say, look, give us an option if we delete these curved walls on it. What if we just square it up? What's the option here? So we can start giving feedback to the designer, and also the client is starting to get an understanding the cost repercussions of what that design is. All of a sudden, that's where us as builders can start adding the value to the client, because just lines on a page don't mean much to them until they start understanding what type of finish things are going to be, or is it going to be a subfloor, or are we going to have to bring in 100 tonne of fill to bulk it all up and then we're digging it all out again, those types of things. So there's very much so many parts to it, but part of our process, we'll always allow 3 proposals before we get to a building contract. In the past, and it's probably just through learnings, they, could go 6, 7 proposals. Sometimes it's like, hang on a minute. And you're getting
progressively get more and more detailed, do they?
They do, exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's sort of like, right, we got to make some decisions here. So 3 proposals is where we cap it. If you want to go further, well, then it's an hourly rate from there onwards. So, but basically that works really well, because after that first proposal, the architect can, because their next stage is wanting to get the drawing to a planning rules consent drawing. So they're wanting to be, that's their next stage of payment as well. So that's where, for us as a business model, as a builder, is understanding how an architect's or designer's business works as well. So that's how that whole collaboration can actually work to basically get everyone that enjoyable building experience. It's not just the client getting that enjoyable building experience, it's everyone involved, trades, suppliers, they get a pipeline of work. We're talking about that too, like, the trades, if they know we're working this way, they know that if they're going to quote it, it's pretty well 95% that it's actually going to happen, which is important.
Trades are an extension of your team, and you don't want them quoting 50 jobs just to win one. They're just going to get fatigued from it. So, can agree with that.
There's a lot of time that goes into that. It could be 12 to 18 months that you're doing that whole design process, and whoever came up with the free quotes thing, like I cringe when I see utes and trailers and stuff driving around now and it's got free quotes plus all over it, and I'm just like, it's, for me, it's just not the way to look at it. So, and I think if you find the right client who values what you bring to the table, the dollar figure's not an issue. Like, I remember the first time that I was charging for a quote and I was like shaking with a piece of paper in my hand.
How much do you charge?
It was like $300.
Yeah, same.
And these clients were professional people. Like, they didn't want to, they wanted you to, I guess, lead it. And I put it down and I explained it, and they're like, yeah, no worries, but it's signed, all good. And I was like, oh, and that was the start. So that's like, if anyone comes to me now, I'm like, you need to be charging for your time, but providing value and educating those people on why you need to be charging for your time, because there is a lot, and probably what we charge probably doesn't cover all the time that we put in, but at least it sort of takes some of the blow.
100%. Oh, you've hit the nail on the head there. You don't want guys who are already doing a poor job of quoting just going, oh, I can charge for quotes, I'm going to just slap $2,000 on it and do the same poor job. Like, you've got to bring value to the table, right?
You are giving, you're setting off that relationship with your clients through pre-construction, but you're also then showing what you're capable of, and the client expectations are always there for what they might want, and that's going to vary client to client. Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of the first part of our Builders Panel chat with building experts. We're going to be back next week for part 2, so stay tuned.
Let's cue the disclaimer. I need to let you know that myself and the Build Insite team are in no way, shape or form qualified to give you personal or specific business advice. We strongly encourage you seek out the use of professionals for products or when you are making personal or business decisions. Everything discussed during the Build Insite podcast is our own and the guest opinion and personal experience, and is of a general nature only. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one.